She is the first female dwarf that we will ever see on screen. Woo, woo, woo!
Rewind.
Now, I didn't want to make this video. Who am I kidding? Only myself, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm clutching my manly breasts here because, oh joy, Sophia non-Betty, the gift that keeps on giving to content creators. From me to you, Sophia, thanks a lot, love, because this is absolute comedy gold. Why she chose to put an underscore after her name, then mark it official. She could have just used Sophia non-Betty. That would have been it. It's not an unusual name. She could have just claimed that as her own on Instagram, in social media, but she chose to use her first and her surname underscore then official. Seems a little bit odd to me, but whatever. Now, why am I looking at Sophia's official Instagram page? Well, first of all, we had to have a little bit of a giggle at her biography, and then we're going to get into one of the most cringe posts I've ever seen. But it's so cringe that I just couldn't stop laughing. And of course, I'm going to use every gusto of my emotion to make it heartfelt, like a Barbra Streisand album. So her biography says she is an actor, she's a mama, she's an actress. So which one are you, Sophia? Are you an actress or are you an actor? Can you make up your mind, please? She's a voiceover artist. She's South African and Iranian, soon to be appearing in Lord of the Rings, The Power of the Rings. Remember that description right there, okay? So let's scroll on down. Oh my god, this picture here, is this meant to be a night at the opera?
Je probeert dan terug je toekomst.
Oh, but I've got to point out, by the way, she has a very modest 4,110 followers. You know, that's way more than what I have, and that's fine. Not a competition here. It's just like, you know, somebody of her talents, and she's just amassed that many. She'll probably get quite a few more after appearance in this tokenized version of the Lord of the Rings chapter, but we want to go into this, so, oh my god. My world has ended.
A few moments later.
Are we ready for this, folks? Got to take a deep breath here. Got to employ all the training I've learned in my acting years. Oh, the diaphragm is ready. Let's go for this. Are you sitting comfortably, boys and girls? Are you tucked up in your sofa with your hot coffee or cocoa? Let's go. Sophia non-Betty official. Sorry, underscore official. I am an Iranian South African Brit. Okay. Now, you know that for the longest time, when people would walk up to me when I stood at the front door of Planet Hollywood, the most common question they would ask me is, are you from Mauritius? Sadly, I am not. People assumed I was exotic. I looked exotic, especially by the white ladies, and I just let them run with it. I'm nothing that exotic, actually. One day in a live stream, I'll tell you where I'm really from, and you can make up your own mind. But of course, here's Sophia and Betty has to point out she is Iranian and a South African. Oh, I'm a bit of a Brit as well. I am a woman. I am a mother. I am a wife. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I've never seen myself as beautiful. You got that right. Pretty much my whole life has been spent allowing external and internal forces tell me the direct opposite, to control the narrative of who I am and how to describe myself. Funny she talks about controlling the narrative, because that's pretty much what she's doing in a promotional campaign for The Power of the Rings. You know what I'm talking about, right? Here is an image of myself I have spent my life trying to find. What, the image that you took a picture of but you couldn't find it, or you're trying to find... I see, yes. A face that has many scars, has suffered more pain and hardship than I thought I could bear. Just going back to the part where she says, here is an image of myself I've spent my life trying to find. We know us, Sophia. Back in 1985, a certain TV show appeared on UK British TV screens called Moonlighting, starring Sybil Shepherd, who I was very familiar with, and her co-star, who I wasn't familiar with, a dude called Bruce Willis, played Detective David Addison, and got my man crush moment from that, watching that character, decided that's who I'm going to be. It took me less than 15 minutes to decide that was who I was going to be for the rest of my life, David Addison. And, you know, Bruce Willis wasn't the first male character to pop into my life to inspire me. We had Peter Parker in the comics, written by Stan Lee, drawn by Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. So, yeah, two Caucasian men in popular culture, because obviously Bruce Willis played John McClane, were my inspiration. It wasn't me seeking out representation and someone to speak to me because we were the same complexion, the same chemical balances. Nope, we just happened to be two fictional characters, one in the comic book form at the time and one obviously in the TV screen, and it was fantastic, and I've never looked back. And by the way, I've got to come back to something regarding that remark I've just made. So, she has smiled deeply, laughed until her ribs ached, spare ribs, loved to the point she may well explode. Well, like Meg Ryan when Harry Met Sally, I feared loneliness, traded self-worth for the safety net of anxiety and self-loathing. What you sound like here is very insufferable, Sophia. I've got to point that out. The red flags are very much in full throw here, full throttle. Today I look in the mirror, which hasn't cracked yet, of this image, and I am wide awake. Now I see me. Now I accept me. These days I choose to see the soldier of my destiny. I have been and endeavor to continue to be. This image is so much more than exquisite talent from an exceptional team of creatives. This image is me. Well, funny enough, she talks about this exquisite image, but you've had professional makeup artists to rally around you to get the right lighting. Rachel's Nails UK, Deptis Beauty Salon. So it's a bit of a false statement. She says, this is my image. The reason how I got the spiky hair look, because you're probably wondering why is a guy in the 2020s still having spiky hair now? Well, spiky hair is a cool look, actually. And funny enough, it was a black friend of mine at the time, and his black girlfriend decided to give me spiky hair because she thought it would be a good look. They spent a couple of hours putting in this crazy gel into my hair. I walked out into the sunset. I had people giggling at me on the bus, and I thought, you know what? If people find me funny with this hairstyle, I must be onto something. So that's pretty much the story of the hair at the moment. There's a bigger part of that story, and I'll tell you about it sometime. Maybe a members chat when I actually get around to doing the memberships on my channel. But going back to a thing I saw yesterday, and I cannot find it now on YouTube. So you got London Today News on ITV, Channel 3, and they had this coverage of the red carpet event for House of the Dragon, the prequel series to Game of Thrones. Now, the reporter they had on there is a guy called Antoine Allen. He's been on that station for quite a while now. He's a person of colour in terms of his representation. The minute I saw him on a red carpet and we just saw the camera on him, nobody else, I said to myself, they won't be interviewing Matt Smith because you just can't do that for this revisioned version of the Game of Thrones franchise. And fair enough, like minutes later, they're talking to a member of the cast who's also a person of colour. Seemed like a nice guy. He does seem like a good, nice guy. And the first half of the interview, which was about 5 minutes long, it's about, well, this show is going to be still sexy, a bit violent, but we're going to be looking at politics. and I thought, all right, so far so good. Then we get to the second half of the interview where Antoine Allen talks about the lack of diversity in the original Game of Thrones and what it's like to be in a diversified version of that series. I just sat there and I thought, this is why we don't have a black James Bond, because my biggest fear would be that reporters and members of the press will be asking the actor of colour who might eventually be in the shoes of James Bond, what is it like to be the first James Bond of colour, blah, 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 blah. What's going to happen now? The actor of colour who will be tokenizing a popular Caucasian character in the past will be the one standing on the podium and telling everybody, well, we need diversity, folks, in these franchises now. I mean, for goodness sake, we're actually getting a Constantine who is going to be played by a person of colour. But the reason why I found that out is because Jar Jar Abrams, the destroyer of franchises, doesn't want to monetize Warner Brothers' own version of John Constantine, played by Matt Ryan. So in order to circumvent that, they have to create their own version of the same character, but obviously with a few obvious passings, and then they can monetize off that. And the reason why I know that is because I watched a fantastic video by Midnight's Edge breaking that all down. So I'm glad they covered that, and it does explain to me now why we do sometimes see in some circumstances why we have gender or race swaps to specific characters, because at the end of the day, it's a copyright issue. We want to still keep this character, but we want to monetize the character in a different way. So Sophia Nonvetti, just keep up the comedy gold, love. It is absolutely hysterical. And I'll tell you what, folks, if you enjoyed this video today, make sure you give it a like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below. And if I were you, I would check me out on the next video.
To be able to have so many faces now to extend the accessibility for people like me to see themselves staring back at them in such a huge franchise.
This to me just feels like something that has just the furthest possible reach, and you know, we're choosing to tell it in these times, so we should represent it for these.
I play Princess Disa. She is a dwarf, the first female dwarf that we will see.
I just think of my young self and how she would feel to see me on screen, and I have a young daughter and how she will feel to see me on screen. So I think that is, it's incredibly important in more ways than one.
Sophia, I cannot tell you what a thrill it was to see you up on the screen as the first female dwarf depicted from this world. I mean,
first ever female dwarf to ever truly be seen. You know, she is the first female dwarf that we have ever seen on screen. First female dwarf. Female dwarf as a female dwarf. Female dwarf. Female dwarf.
Female dwarf.
Female dwarf. Female dwarf. Female dwarf.
Female dwarf.
Female dwarf. Female dwarf. Female dwarf.
Like and subscribe, or get your nuts Krogan crushed.